Hi. I'm going to read the New Jerusalem Bible, the complete text of the ancient canon of the scriptures. The General Editor's Foreword. The Bible is not a book, but a library, joining together dozens of writings, histories, stories, poetries, and letters. The common factor between them is that they all speak to us of God, revealing His nature, His awesome sovereignty, and His tender love. The Old Testament divides into three sections: histories, including the basic first five books, the Great Law of Israel, show God's loving guidance and correction of Israel from nomad beginnings to all the trials and infidelities of the settled civilization in Palestine. The wisdom books, including the Psalms, the prayer books of Israel, express the collective wisdom of Israel drawn from God for the practical art of living. The prophetic writings gather the warnings and promises of God articulated by those special messengers who strove to keep Israel faithful for the centuries before Christ. By all these means, God was forming his people, preparing them for the fulfillment of his purposes in Christ. The New Testament divides into two sections. First are printed in the four Gospels, the record and message of the good news brought by Jesus. They are assembled the letters of Paul and other figures in Isaiah churches and Christianity. Some written earlier in the Gospels, instructing the early Christians and helping them solve their problems, but also providing understanding and guidance for every Christian generation. The last book of the Bible, the Word of John, sums all up in this vision of deliverance from the persecution and the glorious establishment of the reign of God in the New Jerusalem. The standard edition of the New Jerusalem Bible was based on the much larger regular edition, first published in 1985. The translation follows the original Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek text. For the Old Testament, the Hebrew and infrequently Aramaic provides the basic text, though this is supplemented where necessary by the Greek text established in the first centuries before Christ in Alexandria. Occasionally, a double series verse is given. This reflects a different numbering of the Hebrew and the Greek text. The Greek version additionally provides books called Apocrypha and also supplements to other books, which are here printed in italics. The New Jerusalem Testament, italics should get exclusively indicated quotations where elsewhere in the Bible. Absent texts are marked with ellipses. This indicates an unintelligible word or incomplete sentence in the original, where the scholars have not been able to fill out the satisfactory. Brackets in the Old Testament text show that the passage is considered gloss, addition or explanation later with the original text. The equal sign indicates whether a parallel passage from the same book or simply equals parallel lines to denote parallel passage within another biblical book. The work of many devoted scholars have contributed to this Bible. Those who produced the parent La Bible de Jerusalem in 1965, the collaborators in the first English language, the Jerusalem Bible in 1966, and the revisers of the La Bible of Jerusalem, and those who combined to produce the regular edition of the New Jerusalem Bible in 1985. The grateful reader might spare a prayer of thanks and blessings on them all. Henry Waynesboro. The Old Testament. The Book of Genesis. The creation of the world. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now the earth was a formless void. There was darkness over the deep, and the divine wind sweeping over the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw the light was good, and God divided the light from darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Evening came and morning came, the first day. God said, "Let there be a vault in the middle of the waters to divide the waters in two." And it was so it was. And God made the vault and divided the waters under the vault from the waters above the vault. God called the vault heaven. Evening came and morning came, the second day. God said, "Let the waters under heaven come together into a single mass, and let dry land appear." And so it was. God called the dry land earth, and the mass of waters seas. And God saw that it was good. God said, "Let the earth produce vegetation, seed bearing plants, and fruit trees on the earth, bearing fruit with their seed inside, corresponding to its own species." And so it was. The various earth produced vegetation, the various kinds of seed bearing plants, and fruit trees with seed inside, each corresponding to its own species. God saw that it was good. Evening came and morning came the third day. God said, "Let there be lights in the vaults of heaven to divide day from night, and let there indicate festivals, days, and years, and let them be lights on the vaults of heaven to shine on the earth." And so it was. God made the two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, the smaller lights to govern the night, and the stars. God set them in the vault of heaven to shine on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and divide the light from darkness. God saw it was good. Evening came and the morning came, the fourth day. God said, "Let the waters be alive with a swarm of living creatures, and let birds wing their way above the earth across the vault of heaven." And so it was. God created the great sea monsters and all the creatures that glide and teem in the waters in their own species, and winged birds in their own species. God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the waters and seas, and let the birds multiply in land." Evening came and morning came the fifth. God said, "Let the earth produce every kind of living creature on its own species, cattle, creeping things, and wild animals of all kinds." And so it was. God made the animals in their own species, and the cattle in theirs, earth creatures that crawls along the earth in its own species. God saw it was good. God said, "Let us make man in our own image, in the likeness of ourselves, and let the masters of the fish of the sea, the birds of heaven, and the cattle, and all the wild animals, and all the creatures that creep along the ground." God created man in the image of himself. In the image of God he created them, male and female he created them. God blessed them, saying to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Be masters of the fish of the seas, the birds of heaven, and all the living creatures that move on earth." God also said, "Look, to you I give all the seed bearing plants, everywhere on the surface of the earth, and all the trees with seed bearing fruit, and this will be your food. And to all the wild animals, all the birds of heaven, and all the living creatures that creep along the ground, I give all the foliage of the plants and their food." And so it was. God saw all he had made, and indeed it was very good. Evening came, morning came, the sixth day. Thus heaven and earth were completed with all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work he had been doing. He rested on the seventh day after all the work he had been doing. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on that day he rested after all his work. Such was the story of heaven and earth as they were created. Paradise and the test of free will. At the time when Yahweh God made the earth and heaven, there was yet no wild bush on the earth, nor had any plant sprung up. For Yahweh God has not sent rain on the earth, nor was there any man to till the soil. Instead, water flowed out of the ground and watered all the surface of the soil. Yahweh God shaped man from the soil of the ground and blew the breath of life into his nostrils, and man became living. Yahweh God planted a garden in Eden, which is in and there he put the man he had from the soil. Yahweh God was to grow every kind of tree, enticing to look at and good to eat, with the tree of life in the middle of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The river flowed from Eden to the water in the garden, and from there divided to make four streams. The first is named Fishon, and it winds all through the land of Havilah, where there is gold. The gold of this country is pure. The bdellium, the cornelian stone, are found there. The second river is named Gihon, and this winds all through the land of Cush. The third river is named Tigris, and this flows to the east of Ashur. The fourth river is Euphrates. God took the man and set it up in the garden of Eden to cultivate and take care of it. Then Yahweh God gave the man this command: "You are free to eat of all the trees in the garden, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you are not to eat of it. For the day you eat of that, you are doomed to die." Yahweh God said, "It is not right for the man should be alone. I shall make him a helper." So from the soil, Yahweh God fashioned all the wild animals and birds of heaven. These he brought to man to see what he would call them. Each one was to bear the name the man would give it. The man gave names to all the cattle, all the birds of heaven, and all the wild animals. No helper suitable for man was found for him. Then Yahweh God made the man fall into a deep sleep. And while he was asleep, he took one of his ribs and closed the flesh up again forthwith. God fashioned, Yahweh God fashioned the woman he had taken from man into a woman, and brought her to the man. And the man said, "This one at last, bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She is called woman because she is taken from man." This is why man leaves his father and mother and comes attached to his wife, and they become one flesh. Now both of them were naked, and man and his wife, but they felt no shame before each other. The fall. Now the snake was the most subtle of all the wild animals of Yahweh God had made. And asked the woman, "Did God really say you were not to eat of these trees in the garden?" The woman answered the snake, "We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden," he said, "you must not eat, nor touch it under pain of death." Then the snake said to the woman, "No, you will not die. God knows, in fact, that the day you eat, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like gods, knowing good and evil." The woman said the tree was good to eat and pleasing to the eye, and that it was enticing for the wisdom that it could give. So she took some of its fruits and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her and ate it. Then both of them, their eyes were opened, and they realized that they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together to make themselves loincloths. The man and his wife heard the sound of Yahweh God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from Yahweh God among the trees of the garden. Yahweh God called to the man, "Where are you?" he asked. "I heard the sound of you in the garden," he replied. "I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." "Who told you that you were naked?" he asked. "Yet have you been eating from the tree I forbade you to eat?" The man replied, "It was the woman who gave it to put with me. She gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it." Then Yahweh said to the woman, "Why did you do that?" The woman replied, "The snake tempted me and I ate." Then Yahweh God said to the snake, "Because you have done this, accursed be you of all animals, wild and tame. On your belly you will go, and on dust you will feed as long as you live. I shall put enmity between you and the woman, and between you and the offspring of hers, and it will bruise your head and will strike your heel." To the woman he said, "I shall give you intense pain in childbearing. You will give birth to your children in pain. Your yearning will be for your husband, and he will dominate you." To this, to the man he said, "Because you listened to the voice of your wife and ate from the tree which I have forbidden you to eat, cursed be the soil because of you. Painfully will you get your food from it, as long as you live. You will yield brambles and thistles. As you eat the produce of your land by the sweat of your face, you will earn your food until you return to the ground. As you are taken from it, from dust you are, thus you will return. The man was named his wife Eve because she was the mother of all those who live. Yahweh God made tunics of skin for the man and his wife, and clothed them. And Yahweh God said, "Now that the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil, he must not be allowed to reach out to his hand to pick from the tree of life too, and eat and live forever." So Yahweh God expelled them from the Garden of Eden to toil the soil which he had been taking. The man in front of the Garden of Eden posted the great winged creatures and the fiery flashing sword to guard the way of the tree of life. Cain and Abel. The man had intercourse with his wife Eve. She conceived and gave birth to Cain. "I have acquired the man with the help of Yahweh," she said. She gave birth to a second son, Abel, the brother of Cain. Now Abel became a shepherd and kept the flocks, while Cain tilled the soil. Time passed, and Cain brought some of the produce of the soil as offering for Yahweh, while Abel brought part of his firstborn of his flock and some of their fat as well. Yahweh looked with favor on Abel, and his offering, but he did not look with favor on Cain on his offering. And Cain was very angry and downcast. Yahweh asked Cain, "Why are you angry and downcast? If you are doing right, surely you ought to hold your head high. But if you are not doing right, sin is crouching at the door hungry to get you. You can still master him," Cain said to his brother Abel. "Let's go out." While they were in the open country, Cain set on his brother Abel and killed him. Yahweh asked Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I do not know," he replied. "Am I my brother's guardian?" "What have you done?" Yahweh asked. "Listen, your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground. Now be cursed and banned from the grounds that has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood at your hands. When you till the ground, it will no longer yield. It is up its strength to you. The restless wanderer you will be on earth." Cain then said to Yahweh, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. Look, today you drive me from the surface of the earth. I must hide from you and be a restless wanderer on earth. Why, whoever comes across me will kill me." "Very well, then," Yahweh replied. "Whoever kills Cain will suffer a sevenfold vengeance." So Yahweh put a mark on Cain so that no one coming across him would kill him. Cain left Yahweh's presence and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. The descendants of Cain. Cain had intercourse with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. He became a founder of a city and gave the city the name of his son, Enoch. Enoch fathered Irad, and Irad fathered Mehujael, and Mehujael fathered Methuselah, and Methuselah fathered Lamech. Lamech married two women. The name of the first was Ada, and the second was Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He was the ancestor of tent-dwelling herdsmen. His brother's name was Jubal, and he was the ancestor who would play the harp and the pipe. As for Zillah, he gave birth to Tubal-Cain. He was the ancestor of all who worked copper and iron. Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. Lamech said to his wife, "Ada and Zillah, hear my voice." "Wives of Lamech, listen to what I say. I killed a man for wounding me, a boy for striking me. Sevenfold vengeance for Cain, but 70-fold for Lamech." Seth and his descendants. Adam had intercourse with his wife, and she gave birth to a son whom she named Seth. "Because God had granted me another offspring," he said, "in the place of Abel, since Cain had killed him. A son was also born to Seth, and he named him Enosh. The man was the first to invoke the name of Yahweh." The patriarchs before the flood. This is the roll of Adam's descent. On the day of God created Adam, he made him in the likeness of God. Male and female he created him. He blessed them and gave them the name man when they were created. When Adam was 130 years, he fathered a son in his likeness, after his image, and called him Seth. Adam lived for 800 years after the birth of Seth, and he fathered sons and daughters. In all, Adam lived for 930 years, then he died. When Seth was 105 years old, he fathered Enosh. After the birth of Enosh, Seth lived for 807 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. In all, Seth lived for 912 years, then died. Then Enosh was 90 years old. He fathered Kenan. The birth of Kenan, Enosh lived 815 years, and fathered sons and daughters. In all, Enosh lived for 905 years, then he died. When Kenan was 70 years old, he fathered Mahalalel. After the birth of Mahalalel, Kenan lived for 840 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. In all, Kenan lived for 910 years, then he died. When Mahalalel was 65 years old, when he fathered Jared. After the birth of Jared, Mahalalel lived for 830 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. In all, Mahalalel lived for 895 years, then he died. When Jared was 162 years old, he fathered Enoch. After the birth of Enoch, Jared lived for 800 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. In all, Jared lived for 962 years, and then he died. When Enoch was 65 years old, he fathered Methuselah. Enoch walked with God. After the birth of Methuselah, Enoch fathered 300 years. Enoch lived for 300 years and fathered sons and daughters. In all, Enoch lived for 365 years. Enoch walked with God, then was no more because God took him. When Methuselah was 187 years old, he fathered Lamech. After the birth of Lamech, Methuselah lived for 782 years and fathered sons and daughters. In all, Methuselah lived for 969 years and then died. When Lamech was 182 years old, he fathered a son. He gave him the name Noah because he said, "He is the one who give us, in the midst of our toil, the laboring of our hands, and consolation of the very soil that Yahweh cursed." After the birth of Noah, Lamech lived for 595 years and fathered sons and daughters. In all, Lamech lived for 777 years. Then he died. When Noah was 500 years old, he fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth, sons of God and woman. When people became numerous on earth, daughters had been born to them. The sons of God, looking at the women, saw how beautiful they were, and married as many of them as they chose. Yahweh said, "My spirit cannot be infinitely responsible for human beings, who are only flesh. Let the time allowed each be 120 years." The Nephilim on those earth those days, and even afterwards, when the Son of God resorted to the women, the children by them, these were the heroes of days gone by, men of renown. The corruption of humanity. Yahweh saw that human wickedness was great on earth, and that human hearts contrived nothing but wicked schemes all day long. Yahweh regretted having made human beings on earth, and was grieved at heart. And Yahweh said, "I shall rid the surface of the earth of the human beings I created, human and animal, creeping things, and all the birds of heaven, for I regret having made them." But Noah won Yahweh's favor. This is the story of Noah. Noah was a good man, an upright man among his contemporaries, and he walked with God. Noah fathered three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. God saw the earth was corrupt and full of lawlessness. God looked up at the earth. It was corrupt, for corrupt were the ways of all living things on earth. Preparations for the flood. God said to Noah, "I have decided that the end has come for all living things, for the earth is full of lawlessness because of human beings. So now I'm about to destroy them in the earth. Make yourself an ark out of resinous wood. Make it of reeds and caulk it with pitch inside and out. This is how to make it. The length of the ark is to be 300 cubits, its breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. Make a roof to the ark, building it a cubit higher. Build an entrance in the side of the ark, which is to be made with lower and second and third decks. For my part, I am going to send the flood, the waters on earth, to destroy all living things having breath and life under heaven. Everything on earth is to perish. But with you I shall establish my covenant with you and go aboard the ark. Yourselves, your sons, your wives, and your son's wife along with you. From all the living creatures, from all living things, you must take two of each kind on board. Save their lives with yours. They must be a male and female. Of every species of bird, of every kind of animal, and every kind of creature that creeps along the ground, two must be with you, so their lives may be saved. For your part, provide yourselves with eatables of all kinds, and lay them in store for them, to serve as food for yourself and them. Noah did this exactly as God commanded him. He did. Yahweh said to Noah, "Go aboard the ark and all your household, for you alone of your contemporaries do I see before me as upright man. Of every clean animal you must take 7 pairs, a male and its female, and the unclean animals you must take 1 pair of male and female. And of the birds of heaven 7 pairs, a male and its female, to preserve the species throughout all earth. For in 7 days' time I shall make it rain on earth 40 days and 40 nights. I shall wipe out every creature I have made on the face of earth." Noah did exactly as Yahweh commanded. Noah was 600 years old when the flood came. The waters over the earth. Noah had, with his sons and wives, and his sons' wives, boarded the ark to escape the water of the flood. Of the clean animal and the animals that are not clean, of the birds and all the creeps along the ground, 1 pair boarded the ark with Noah, male and female, as God has commanded Noah. 7 days later, the waters of the flood appeared on earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, and on the 17th day of the month, that very day, all the springs of the great deep burst open, and the sluices of heaven opened. and heavy rain fell on earth for 40 days and 40 nights. That very day, Noah and his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth boarded the ark, with Noah's wife and the three wives of his son, and with them every species of wild animal, every species of cattle, every species of creeping things that creep along the ground, every special species of birds, everything that flies, everything with wings, one pair of all that was alive, and and had the breath of life boarded the ark with Noah. And those that went aboard were male and female, and all that was alive, and God had commanded them. Then Yahweh shut them in. The flood. The flood lasted 40 days on earth. The waters swelled, lifting the ark until it floated off the ground. The waters rose, swelling higher above the ground, and the ark drifted away over the waters. The waters rose higher and higher above the ground until all the highest mountains under the whole heaven were submerged. The waters reached their peak, 15 cubits above the submerged mountains, and all living things and stirred on the earth perished. Birds, cattle, wild animal, and all creatures swarming over the earth, and all human beings. Everything with the least breath of life in his nostril, everything on dry land died. Every living thing on the face of the earth had wiped out. People, animals, creeping things, and birds, they were wiped off the earth, and only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. The waters maintained the level on earth for 150 days. The flood subsides, but God had Noah in mind, and all the wild animals and ark cattle that were with him in the ark. God sent a wind across the earth, and waters began to subside. The springs of the deep and the sluices of heaven were stopped up, and the heavy rain from the heaven was held back. Little by little, the water ebbed from the earth. After 150 days, the water fell, and in the seventh month of the 17th day of the month, the ark came to rest in the mountains of Ararat. The waters gradually fell until the 10th month, when, the first day of the 10th month, the mountain's tops appeared. At the end of 40 days, Noah opened the ark he had made in the ark, opened the window in the window he made in the ark, and released the raven, which flew back and forth and waited in the waters for the drop to dry up on the earth. When he released a dove to see whether the waters were receding from the surface of the earth, but the dove, finding nowhere to perch, returned to him in the ark, for there was water over the whole surface of the earth. Putting his hand, he took hold of it and brought it back into the ark with him. After waiting 7 more days, he again released the dove from the ark. In the evening, the dove came back to him, and where on his beak was a freshly picked olive leaf. So Noah realized that the waters were receding from the earth. After waiting 7 more days, he released the dove, and now it returned to him no more. It was the 601st year of Noah's life, in the first month, and the first month on the first month, that the waters began drying out on earth. Noah lifted back the hatch of the ark and looked out. The surface of the ground was dry. In the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. They disembarked. Then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you, your wife, your sons' wives with you. Bring out all the animals with you, all living things, the birds, the cattle, and all creeping things that creep along the ground, for them to swarm the earth, for them to breed and multiply on earth." For Noah came out with his sons, his wives, and his sons' wives, and all the wild animals and all cattle, all the birds, all the creeping things, and all the creep along the ground, came out of the ark, one species after another. Then Noah built an altar to Yahweh, and choosing the clean animals and all the clean birds, he presented burnt offerings on the altar. Yahweh smelt the pleasing smell and said to himself, "Never again will I curse the earth because of human beings, because their heart continues evil from their infancy. Never again will I strike down every living thing as I have done. As long as earth endures, seed, time, and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease." The New World Order. God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, "Breed, multiply, and fill the earth. Be the terror and the dread of the animals on the land, and all the birds of heaven, and everything that moves on the land, and all the fish in the sea. They are placed in your hands. Every living thing that moves will be yours to eat, no less than the foliage of the plants. I give you everything, with the exception You must not eat flesh with life, that is to say, with blood in it. And I shall demand account of your lifeblood too. I shall demand of every animal and every man, of man as regards his fellow man. I shall demand account for human life. He who sheds the blood of man, by the man shall blood be shed. For the image of God was man created. Be fruitful then and multiply. Teem over the earth and subdue it. God spoke as followed to Noah and his sons. I am now establishing my covenant with you and with your descendants to come, and with every living creature that is with you, birds, cattle, and every wild animal with you, everything that came out of the ark, every living thing on earth, and I shall maintain my covenant with you, that never shall again the living things be destroyed by the waters of a flood, nor shall there ever be a flood to devastate the earth. And this, God said, is a sign of the covenant which I now make between myself and you, and every living creature with you for the ages to come. I now set my bow in the clouds, and will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth, whether I gather the clouds over the earth, and bow appears within the clouds. I shall recall the covenant between myself and you, and every living creature in the world, all living things, and never again will the waters become a flood to destroy the living things. When the bow in the clouds, I shall see it and call to mind an eternal covenant between God and every living creature on earth. This is all living thing. That God told Noah is a sign of the covenant that I have established between myself and living things on earth. Noah and his sons. The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham being father of Canaan. These were the Noah's son, and these were the whole earth was peopled. Noah, the tiller of the soil, was the first to plant the vine. He drank some of the wine, and while he was drunk, he laid uncovered in his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his two brothers outside. Shem and Japheth took a cloak and put them on his shoulders. Walking backwards covered their father's nakedness. They kept their face turned away, and they did not look at the father's naked. When Noah awoke from his stupor, he learned what his youngest son has done to him. Accursed be to Canaan. He shall be his brother's main slave. He added, Blessed be the God. Blessed be Yahweh, God of Shem, and let Canaan be his slave. May God make space for Japheth, he may live in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his slave. After the flood, Noah lived there 150 years in all. Noah's life lasted 950 years, then he died. The peopling of earth. These are descendants of his son, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, whose sons were born after the flood. Japheth's son, Gomer, Magog, Medes, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, Tiras. Gomer's son, Ashkenaz, Riphath, Targarma, Javan's son, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dananites. From these came the dispersal of the islands of the nations. These were Japheth's son and their respective countries, which their own language by clan and nation. Ham's son, Cush, Mizraim, Put, Canaan. Cush's son, Seba, Havilah, Sabath, Raman, Sabetica. Raman's son, Sheba, Dinan. Cush fathered Nimrod, who was the first potentate on earth. He was a mighty hunter in the eyes of Yahweh, hence the saying, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter in the eyes of Yahweh. The mainstays of the empire were Babel, Eresh, and Akkad, all from them in the land of Shihar. From the country came Ashur, and built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Id, Kalal, and Rezin, between Nineveh and Kalal, this being the capital. Mizraim fathered the people of Lud, of Anam, Leb, Naphtha, Pathros, Kalos, and Capithor, from which the Philistines came. Canaan fathered Sidon, which firstborn Heth, and Jebusites, the Amorites, Gigarish, Hivites, Amarkites, Sinites, Abarites, Zemarites, and Hamathites. Later, the Canaanite clan spread out. The Canaanite frontier stretch on Sidon all the way to Gerar and Gaza, and all the way to Sidon and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, and near Lahesh. These were Ham's sons by nations and language, by countries and nations. Shem too fathered sons, being an ancestor of the sons of Eber and Japheth's elder brother. Shem's son, Elam, Ashur, Aspashad, Lod, Aram. Aram's son, Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Parshad fathered Shelai, and Shelai fathered Eber, and Eber were born two sons. The first was called Peleg, because it was in his time the earth was divided, and the other was called Jokan. Jokan fathered Amaldad, Shelet, Hazamereth, Jared, Hadoram, Izal, Dikala, Obal, Abima, El-Shebeb, Yeshibia, Ophir, Havala, Jobab. All these were sons of Jokan. They occupied a stretch of country from Met all the way to Sephar, the eastern mountain range. These were Shem's sons by clans and language, by countries and nations. Such were the clans of Loah, descendants of the nation. From them nations branched out on the earth after the flood. The Tower of Babel. The whole world spoke the same language, with the same vocabulary. Now as people moved eastwards, they found a valley in the land of Shinar, where they settled. They said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them in the fire." For stone they used bricks, and mortar they used bitumen. "Come," they said, "let us build ourselves a city and tower with its top reaching heaven. Let us make a name for ourselves, so that we do not get scattered all over the world." Now Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower that the people had built. So they were all a single people with a single language. Said Yahweh, "This was only the start of their undertakings. Now nothing they plan to do will be beyond them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language there, so that they cannot understand one another." Yahweh scattered them hence all over the world, and they stopped building the city. This is why they called it Babel, since there Yahweh confused the language of the whole world, and from there Yahweh scattered them all over the world. The patriarchs after the flood. These are Shem's descendants. When Shem was 100 years old, her father Arpachshad, 2 years after the flood, after the birth of Arpachshad, Shem lived 500 years and fathered sons and daughters. When Arpachshad was 35 years old, he fathered Shelah. After the birth of Shelah, Arpachshad lived 403 years and fathered sons and daughters. When Shelah was 30 years old, he fathered Eber. After the birth of Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and fathered sons and daughters. When Eber was 35 years old, he fathered Peleg. After the birth of Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and fathered sons and daughters. When Peleg was 30 years old, he fathered Reu. After the birth of Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and fathered sons and daughters. When Reu was 32 years old, he fathered Serug. At the birth of Serug, Serug lived 207 years old, and lived 207 years, and fathered sons and daughters. When Serug was 30 years old, he fathered Nahor. After the birth of Nahor, Serug lived 200 and fathered sons and daughters. When Nahor was 29 years old, he fathered Terah. After the birth of Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and fathered sons and daughters. When Terah was 7 years old, he fathered Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. Descendants of Terah. These are Terah's descendants. Terah fathered Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. Haran fathered Lot. Haran died in the presence of his father Terah in his native land, or the Chaldeans. Abraham and Nahor both married. Abraham's wife was called Sarai. Nahor's wife was called Milcah, daughter of Haran, father of Milcah and Iscah. Sarah was barren, having no child. Terah took his son to Abraham, his grandson, Lot, to Haran, and his daughter-in-law, the wife of Abraham, and made them leave to Ur to Chaldeans to go to the land of the Canaan. But on arrival in Haran, they settled there. Terah's life lasted 205 years. Then he died in Haran. The call of Abraham. Yahweh said to Abraham, "Leave your country, your kindred, and your father's house for a country which I shall show you. And I shall make you a great nation. I shall bless you and make your name famous. You are to be a blessing. I shall bless those who bless you, and shall curse those who curse you, and all the clans of the earth will bless themselves by you. So Abram went as Yahweh told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and the possession they had amassed, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and set off to the land of Canaan, and arrived there. Abram passed through this country as far as the holy place of Shechem, the oak of Moreh. The Canaanites were in the country at the time. Yahweh appeared to Abram and said, I shall give you this country to your progeny. And there Abram built an altar to Yahweh who appeared to him. From there he moved to the mountainous district of Bethel, where he pitched his tent, with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east, where they built an altar to Yahweh and invoked the name of Yahweh. Then Abram made his way stage to the stage of Negeb. Abram in Egypt. There was a famine in the country, and Abram went down to Egypt to stay there for a time, since the famine in the country was severe. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife, Sarai, look, I know you are a beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, that is his wife, and they will kill me but leave you alive. Therefore, please tell them you are my sister, so that you may treat me well because of you and spare my life out of their regard for you. When Abram arrived in Egypt, the Egyptian did see that the woman was very beautiful. When Pharaoh's officials saw that they sang her praises to Pharaoh and that the woman was taken to the Pharaoh's household, Abram was very well treated because of her and received flocks, oxen, donkey, men, and camel, and slaves, she-donkeys, and camels. But Yahweh inflicted severe plagues on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram and said, what is this you have done to me? Why have you not told me that she is your wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her to be my wife? Now here is your wife. Take her and go. And Pharaoh gave his people's orders about him. They sent him away on his way, and his wife and all his possessions. Abram and Lot separate. From Egypt, Abram returned to Negev with his wife and all his possessions, and Lot with him. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. By stages, he went from Negev to Bethel, where he first pitched his tent, between Bethel and Ai, and the place where they formerly erected the altar. The Abram invoked the name of Yahweh. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, had flocks and cattle of his own, and tents too. The land was not sufficient to accommodate them both at once, for they had too many possessions to be able to live together. Dispute broke out between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and those of Lot. The Canaanites and Perizzites were living in the country at the time. Accordingly, Abram said to Lot, we do not want to discord between us or between my herdsmen and yours, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land open before you? Go in the opposite direction to me. If you take the left, I shall go right. If you take right, I shall go left. Looking around, Lot saw the Jordan plain, irrigated everywhere. This was before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of Yahweh or the land of Egypt, as far as Zoar. So Lot chose all the Jordan plains for himself and moved off eastward. Thus they parted company. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot settled along the cities of the plain, pitching his tents on the outskirts of Sodom. Now the people of Sodom were vicious and great sinners against Yahweh. Yahweh said to Abram, after Lot had parted company with him, look all around from where you are, to north and south and east and west. All the land within the sight I shall give to you and make descendants forever. I shall make your descendants like dust on the ground. When people succeed in counting the specks of dust on the ground, they will be able to count your descendants too. On your feet, travel the length and breadth of your country, for I mean to give it to you. So Abraham moved his tent and went to settle on Oak of Mamre in Hebron and built an altar to Yahweh. The campaign of the four great kings. When Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, made war on Bera, king of Sodom, Bisher, king of Gomorrah, Sidam, king of Amad, Shebor, king of Zebulun, and king of Bela, that is Zor. All latter joined forces in the valley of Siddim, now the Salt Sea. For 12 years they had been under the yoke of Chedor-Laomer, but in the 13th year they revolted. In the 14th year, Chedor-Laomer arrived, and the king said Allah with them. They defeated the Rephaim and Ashtaroth, Karnan, the Zuzim at Ham, and Enom at the plain of Karathim, and the Horites in the mountainous district of Syria near El Paran, which is the edge of the desert. Spinning round, wheeling around, they came to the spring of judgment, that is Kadesh. They conquered all the territory of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who lived in Hazazon, Tamar, and the king of Sodom and Gomorrah, Adam, Zeboy, and Bela, that is Zor, marched out and engaged in the valley of Siddim. Chedor-Laomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now there were many bitumen wells in the valley of Siddim, and in their flights the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fell into them, while the rest fled in the hills. The conquerors seized all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their provisions and made off. They also took Lot, the nephew of Abraham, and possessions and made off. He had been living at Sodom. A survivor came to tell Abraham, the Aner of Hebrew, who was living at the oak of Amorite, Mamre, the brother Ishmael. These were the allies of Abraham. When Abraham heard the kingsmen had been taken captive, he mustered his retainers, born of his own household, numbering 3,018. He gave chase as far as Dan, and his retainers deployed against the uncover of darkness, defeated them, and pursued them as far as Habal, north of Damascus. He recaptured all the goods as well as kingmen, Lot and his position, together, and the men and the people. Melchizedek. When Abraham returned from the defeating Chedor-Laomer and the kings who had been on his side, King Sodom came to meet him in the valley of Sheba. This is the valley of kings. Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought bread and wine. He was a priest of God Most High. He pronounced his blessing. Blessed be Abram, the God Most High, and creator of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High for putting your enemies at your clutches. And Abraham gave him 10th of everything. The king of Sodom to Abraham, give me the people and the possessions of yourself. Abraham replied to the king of Sodom, I swear by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, not one thread, not one sandal strap will I take of what is yours, for you to be able to say, I made Abraham rich. For myself nothing except what the truth has used up, and the share due to the men who came with me, Eshcol, Abner, and Mad. Let them take their share. Okay, that's enough for today. Hope you had awesome time. Hope you had awesome blessings. Thank you.